Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt McCarty. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. If you are able, please rise and join us in a pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. If you'll take just a moment and silence your phones, we would appreciate that. On behalf of the Elko Area Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank our candidates for being here this evening. I'd also like to thank the Elko Convention and Visitors Authority, our media partners, Miss Billy Crapo, who will be running the timer for us, and Miss Katie Ashley, who will be videoing this event. The video will be available on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow. I'd also like to thank those who submitted questions for tonight's forum and you for being here this evening. I'm going to take just a moment to acknowledge the passing of Lee Hoffman. Lee has been present with his wife, Lynn, at countless events for our elections, for our electors, at city council meetings, at county commission meetings, at school board meetings. His absence is certainly felt this evening, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge his passing. With that, I'm also going to acknowledge that we are missing one of our candidates. We have attempted to get a hold of Mr. Hawkins, who's a candidate for the Elko County Clerk, and we've not been successful. It's been posted in multiple public areas, and so before we begin, because Ms. Plunkett has been generous enough with her time to arrive here, I'm going to give her a moment to do an opening statement, and then I'm going to respectfully excuse her, and she can get on with her evening. I believe she may be staying and listening to the rest of the forum. But with that, Ms. Plunkett, go ahead. Hold it down, just there you go.
My name is Rebecca Plunkett. I'm running for Elko County Clerk. I'm also have been appointed Elko County Clerk at this moment. I was born and raised in Elko County. I'm a third generation, and I have two sons who are born in Elko as well. And I love this community. I'm just gonna make this short and sweet so you guys can get on with your forum. My message to all the residents of Elko County is the clerk's office upholds standards. With my experience and dedication to this office and the community, I aim to maintain a dependable office that provides top-level service. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and you are excused. For the rest of you still in the hot seat, what we'll do this evening is we'll have a series of questions. We're going to begin with an opening statement, and we'll close with a closing statement. I've randomized basically what the questions and who will answer them first or in subsequent order. And what will happen for all questions, including the opening statement and the closing statement, is you'll have 2 minutes to answer those questions or make your prepared remarks if you have them. Billy will be on the timer. Green light means you're good to go. At 30 seconds, it'll be turning to a yellow light, and at red light means go ahead and stop and wrap it up. If it goes too much longer and I have to interject, then I apologize in advance and mean no disrespect. We just want to be respectful of everyone's time. So with that, we're going to start with our city council candidates. And Ms. Lostra, Marissa Lostra, you have the first opening 2 minutes for your statement.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Marissa Lostra. I'm honored to be here today as a candidate for Elko City Council.
Can you turn it up, please?
Can you hear me better?
I hear you better. Thank you.
Perfect. As someone who's called this community home for over 40 years, I'm deeply invested in our city and our community and its future. Elko is a place of rich history, strong values, and a spirit of resilience. I believe that together we can build on that legacy to ensure Elko remains a vibrant, prosperous, and welcoming place for all who live here. My decision to run for city council stems from a desire to give back to this community that I was raised in and that I am currently raising my own family in. I'm the owner-broker of Lasher Realty, and my family owns a couple other small businesses within the community. I have witnessed firsthand both the opportunities and the challenges that Elko faces, from managing responsible growth and improving our infrastructure to supporting local businesses and enhancing public safety. I'm committed to working with all of you to create positive and lasting changes. If elected, I will listen to your concerns. I will be transparent in my decisions and work tirelessly to make Elko an even better place to live and to work. I believe in the power of collaboration, and I know that by working together, we can tackle the issues that matter most to our community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I look forward to discussing the issues that are important to you in this forum.
Thank you, Ms. Lastra. Our next candidate will be Claire Morris. Mr. Morris.
My name's Claire Morris. I moved here in 1958. I guess my parents moved here in 1958. I was 5 years old, so I guess I was just along for the ride. I started my schooling with grammar school number 2 here in Elko. Went on to grammar school number 1, which is no longer with us, of course. Graduated from Elko High School in 1971, Weaver State in 76. Started my law enforcement career in 1976 with the Elko Police Department. Spent about 16 years there. Sheriff Harris was elected sheriff. He asked me to come over and be his undersheriff. I went over and worked 8 years with Neil Harris as his undersheriff. The city asked me to come back as the chief of police, which I did. I went back as the chief of police and retired in 06 with 30 years in law enforcement. I left the city on a Friday, started with Newmont Mining on a Monday as a regional security manager. Great job. It just wasn't Newmont was a great company. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Jim Pitts was in need of an undersheriff, so I returned to law enforcement under Sheriff Pitts and finished out my career. I finally retired my 3rd time in 2016. I've served this community for about 40 years. I want to continue serving for another 4 years, and then I'm presently on the city council. This will be my 2nd term if I'm elected, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. And our 3rd candidate for Elko City Council is Mike Hagan. Mr. Hagan, the next 2 minutes are yours.
Hi, some of you might recognize me from when I ran for mayor 2 years ago. Excuse me, I just had surgery last Wednesday on my mouth. I actually still have stitches in there. So it's going to be a little difficult for me to talk. I moved here first in 2002. I was brought out by Marcy and Jack, the former owners of the Stockman and Commercial, to be executive sous chef. I was eventually moved up to be the executive chef. After getting things on track with those casino restaurants, they decided to sell it. After that, then the city decided not to renew their contract with Casino Flights, which was through the Red Lion back then. And I was in the hospitality industry, and I saw that industry going down here after the Casino Flights were ended. So I ended up moving mistakenly to Reno, where I lived there for 15 years. I actually ran for mayor out there. After losing in the primaries, I saw the direction that Reno was going in, left-leaning. So I remembered Elko and decided to move back here to retire where it's safe. I love this city. I think a lot can be improved. I think we really need to focus on our infrastructure. That's definitely a main concern. I lived in Salt Lake for a while too, and the one thing that they did, which saved them after 9/11, was focus on their infrastructure. So even in a down economy, you can grow a community through building infrastructure, and I believe that's what we need to do here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. We'll give our city council member candidates a break for just a moment. We'll turn to our county commission candidates. Mr. Brian Gale will have the next 2 minutes for you.
Hello, I'm Brian Gale. I've lived in the area for 18 years. I'm a rancher in Ruby Valley. Before that, I worked a couple of different careers in manufacturing engineering, which I studied at Brigham Young University. I am the, what did I say? I'm the Republican candidate for County Commission, District 1. Why I'm running for County Commission, our county is facing some unique opportunities. Now, recently the county has decided to file an amicus curiae, a friend of the court brief with Utah about public lands. The state of Nevada is about 110% owned by the federal government, and we just can't. No state can handle that. No state can put up with that kind of overreach, that kind of oppression. One of the things that we face in the county is the federal overreach, and my biggest issue is the United States Constitution. Every decision I make will be based on whether or not the Constitution is being followed, and whether or not our rights as citizens are being observed. Please vote for me. If you can't vote for me, please read the Constitution. Please accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Jay Dalton, you have the final opportunity for opening remarks.
I'm Jay Dalton, and I'm running for District 1 for Elko County Commission. I come from a family ranching background in Clover Valley. My family has been there now this year for 132 years, since 1892. My education, I was schooled in Wells, both elementary school and high school, graduated from there, was very heavily involved in 4-H and FFA. In FFA, I was even a state officer for a year. I continued my education at the University of Nevada, Reno, and during that time, I served on the Associated Students of the University of Nevada Senate for a term. I also was an intern for our late Senator Dean Rhodes for a legislative session, and I learned an awful lot about the political process, about public policy during that time. I graduated with a degree in agricultural and applied economics and came back home to the family ranch and more public service in Elko County, including the Nevada Beef Council, as well as the Federation of State Beef Councils, the Volunteer Fire Department, where I'm still a volunteer, the Elko County Fair Board most recently, and the Clover Conservation District, Wells Rural Electric's Next Dollar Foundation, and the Wells Community Presbyterian Church, where I serve on session as well as the treasurer. Through all of this, I have managed to meet a lot of different people, a lot of different attitudes toward public policy, and I have learned how to approach issues with an open mind and work together with people in a collaborative and cooperative spirit. I'm committed to practical, common sense solutions that help all of us to thrive. My goal is to create opportunities that benefit everyone in our county while preserving what makes Elko County special. Together we can make thoughtful decisions that build a stronger future.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. At this time, we're going to go into the questions, and we appreciate any enthusiasm that may be generated in regards to the question, but please hold your applause so that we can go ahead and get through the questions. There'll be an opportunity at the end of the forum to show your appreciation. Mr. Dalton, we're going to go right back to you. You'll have the opportunity for the first question. With US 93 seeing increased traffic and emerging as a more traveled north-south corridor to Las Vegas, What steps should Elko County be looking at to either take advantage of this development or address issues with increased traffic?
US 93 goes along a whole bunch of our property, the Ranches Park property, both north and south of Wells, and it's kind of turned into a bit of a death trap. People go up and down that road, they're doing 9-0, and to make a left turn off of that road is very dangerous. You've got to be at the top of your game if you're driving that road. I really think that if there's any way that we can support putting in more passing lanes, maybe even lowering the speed limit in a couple of places, I think would all be really good improvements on US 93. Just because it's a very dangerous highway, and I think we have opportunities to do that. I've rolled on wrecks before with the fire department, and they're not pretty. And I think something that needs to be addressed. That needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mr. Gale, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
No, thank you. Yes, US 93, as Jay stated, is indeed very hazardous from Jackpot all the way down, to Loggies Junction. I'm not sure exactly where the county border is there. But yeah, there's, my wife was a mail lady, and a lot of her stops were on 93, and so she'd have to pull over and deliver the mail. And she told me that sometimes it was a battle to get back on. I've been on, arrived at some incidences on 93, and it is not pleasant. There's more than south of Wells, north of Wells, there's some places that are very hazardous because you just can't see, but somebody wants to pass you, or some series of trucks may want to pass you. It is dangerous. There have been improvements on 93 to expand passing lanes, but so far I think it is insufficient. The passing lanes that were installed recently by what's the Mustang Monument now, the southbound passing lane was entirely in the wrong location. The hazard's over, you're going downhill, and now you have a passing lane. We do need some more. I think I would do exactly the same as Jay would do and push for more passing lanes on 93.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to go back to our city council candidates now. Mr. Morris, you have the first opportunity on this next question. Over the past 18 months, issues with city codes ranging from public nuisance enforcement to building and fire regulations have been highlighted as being detrimental to development in the city of Elko. What steps, if any, do you think need to be undertaken to encourage development in the future?
Well, growth is here. I know there's a certain facet of people here in town that don't want any growth, but the growth is here, and we're trying to manage it the best we can. The building department has done some work with some software to try to speed up the permit process, so when a builder comes in and can submit the permit, it can get approved, and so they can get to the site, get building. It's tough, there's no doubt about it. I think that at some point in time we need to look at doing more of it in-house, as in the inspections and so when they submit plans, if they need to be revised, we send them out now to be revised, and we get somebody in-house that could do that. It would certainly speed up the process so the builder could get on board and get building what he needs to get building. I think that's our best shot, is to streamline that building department best we can.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Hagan, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
Please.
Over the past 18 months, issues with city codes ranging from public nuisance enforcement to building and fire regulations have been highlighted as being detrimental to development in the city of Elko. What steps, if any, do you think need to be undertaken to encourage development in the future?
Well, I don't believe that we should start picking apart our city codes. A lot of them are there for safety reasons. I mean, you know, a 5,000 square foot house does require a fire suppression system, and that's from, you know, years of people building and coming across problems, you know, with certain size buildings. I mean, we shouldn't downplay things that would involve safety with building, just to speed up the process. We need to be very careful when we start involving matters of that. Building codes were put there for a reason. Hundreds of years of people building put those codes there. I mean, sure, I mean, some may be outdated, we can look at that, but I do believe they are there for the good of the builder, the buyer, and the city.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Ms. Ostra, you have the final opportunity for that question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
Not necessary, thank you. So in regards to the building department and the building codes, I know that in recent months, per se the last 18 months, that the building codes have been revised, they've been updated. That's not something that the city has any control over, is what the government is deciding that the building codes are. I do believe that the city plans on updating their building code again toward the beginning of the year. I do think that we need to work on the relationship of the builders with the building department. I also agree that if we get engineer on staff at the city level, that will help some internal review to try to facilitate that process and make it a little bit easier. Again, I believe the codes are there for safety reasons for the public. They're not there to be a thorn in everyone's side. I do believe that the building department is doing their best, and I know that the third-party review and going out to a third-party review is some of the frustration that is felt by the builders, because that third-party review has specific individuals that will review a small piece of each code. They have a lot of staff that can turn that quickly. Internally, I don't believe that the Elko City staff has the capacity or the ability to turn it as quickly as a third-party review, so I believe that they're doing it as quickly as they can, but I also believe additional staff would be helpful to hopefully facilitate that process more smoothly.
Thank you, Ms. Lostra. We'll stay with City Council, and Mr. Hagan, you'll have the next opportunity to answer this question first. There are buildings on Idaho Street that are boarded up, fenced in, or falling apart, and weeds are growing on multiple lots. What are your thoughts on improving the situation or making the owners clean up their own property?
Well, yeah, I think we've addressed this before. Well, I mean, things really should be left up to the discretion of the owners. I don't believe in tyrantly making people do things with something that they own. We see that enough in Spring Creek with the HOA. But I mean, the thing that we can improve is, I mean, we really, I mean, it's important to beautify the downtown, but I mean, I think the main focus should be on our roads more so than, you know, the buildings, because I mean, you can't get to the buildings without the roads, common sense wise. But as far as beautification, I mean, Reese Keener did a great job on his property on the corner of 5th and Idaho Street. The murals there are beautiful. And I mean, if there was some kind of encouragement maybe that we could give to people to do that on their own accord, I think that would be the best measure instead of forcing them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Ms. Lostra, you'll be able to go second. Would you like for me to repeat the question?
Not necessary, thank you. In regards to the buildings that are downtown that are boarded up and are per se a public nuisance in our community, I definitely think that they need to be addressed. I do believe that the owners need to have some accountability In regards to the appearance of that, Elko is tourism based. Our downtown is what brings in a lot of people and tourists and money into this community. So having that downtown blight definitely needs to be addressed. I know that the city of Elko has a grant program which has a storefront. They will do a $25,000 matching grant to a storefront or a business that would like to do any kind of improvements in regards to cleaning up paint, fixing broken windows. So we do have grant programs. It's not completely on the owner, but I do believe that the owner should have some responsibility and pride in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Mr. Morris, would you like for me to repeat the question?
I think I'm good, thank you. Everybody knows we had an incident at night in Idaho with a motel. These owners were out of town, they didn't care, they wouldn't respond to our request. We finally had to go and declare it a public nuisance and force them to at least board it up and get all the tenants, I guess for lack of a better term, they were squatters in there. And we were successful in doing that now. It's the owner's responsibility to fix that property, and we're still working with them. Now, another incident, we had one on South 5th Street, a mobile home park that had some serious problems. Fortunately, they had a local person that represented them, and the owner has been responsive and actually been doing things, and we're going in the right direction. We're getting that trailer park fixed up. It was a total mess. We had raw sewer running down the street, we had broken pipes, we had garbage, we had abandoned RVs, and they're doing a really good job of getting that cleaned up. The 9th and Idaho one, I'll tell you, it was very frustrating. The owners of that, they were absolutely non-responsive. And so we had to go to the point where we had to declare a public nuisance and do something with it. And we're still not done with it. It needs a lot more done to it. But unfortunately, we didn't have any choice in that matter. They wouldn't even respond to us to help us out to get that fixed. So that's where we're at with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. County Commission candidates. Mr. Gale, we'll start with you first. If taxes are not raised, how is the county going to fund road and capital improvement projects?
That's a fantastic question. It's one of my favorites. Everybody hates taxes. All governments have them. It's the only way the government really doesn't make money. The government only takes money. As a county commissioner, I will remember that. I am not going to try to get a whole bunch of projects done that require more and more taxes, because I recognize that the only reason you pay your taxes is because if you don't, you'll go to jail. So that's force. I mean, that's an ugly thing, and I recognize that. So, how to get more tax revenue with fewer taxes? So universities have a thing called a endowment fund, where the fund will be enormous, and they don't even touch the fund. It's all gifts to the university. Of course, nobody's going to give gifts to the county. But what we could do is we could sell tax exemptions. So if you pay 15 times whatever your tax bill is for the year, you never have to pay taxes again, as long as you own that property. If you own, my father-in-law owned his property from 1947 until 2 years ago, he would have really benefited from that. And it's not the money won't be used up, it'll be kept in a fund, and only the interest will be used. If somebody owns their land for 20 years, their property for 20 years, using this system, when it sells again, there's a benefit. The benefit is the next owner only has to pay 7 times. So for every time in the future, the subsequent owners will pay also to get the tax exemption for as long as they own the land. And as they pay that, the fund just gets bigger and bigger, but it's all the same tax money coming. You only pay it once.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Mr. Dalton, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
One more time, would you?
Yes, sir. If taxes are not raised, how is the county going to fund road and capital improvement projects?
There's one thing that I think every taxpayer in the world can agree on, everybody who votes can agree on, is that they don't want higher taxes. And my thought on that whole issue is, I really don't know that there is a way necessarily without taxes being raised in some way, shape, or form. My thought is, if we can diversify our economy, bring in more businesses, and broaden the tax base, more people are paying into the system on property taxes, etc. And that's how we're gonna be able to raise more revenue and broaden the tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. We'll have you keep the microphone for this next question. How should the county balance the needs of county citizens outside of the Elko Spring Creek area against the taxes that those two population centers generate?
That's a hard one, especially out in District 1. All summer long out on the campaign trail, I've been out to all of these places. I've been to Montello, to Jackpot, to Wendover, to Wells, of course, to the far reaches of the county that are District 1. And I even went to Jarvage this summer. And the main issue that they have out in District 1 is that they feel rather ignored. And how you balance that, I really don't know, because most of the tax money comes from Elko and Spring Creek. But I do know that out in District 1, they feel kind of ignored and kind of neglected. And they were really glad that somebody even just showed up to visit with them. And I don't know, the people who pay the money ought to be the ones who benefit the most, but we still can't neglect District 1, I guess is my answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mr. Gale, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
Go ahead.
Alrighty. How should the county balance the needs of county citizens outside of the Elko Spring Creek area against the taxes that those two population centers generate?
That's really a tough question. It's very similar to a school, the price for schools. So in Ruby Valley, we have one school teacher and she's only got a handful of students. Well, the price per student then is pretty high. But what can you do about it? I mean, we're not gonna bus those kids into Elko. Yeah, so there's going to be a disproportionate amount of money spent outside of Elko and Spring Creek. But we have a big county. It's the second largest county in the United States. It's as big as some states. It's as big as some nations. We have a lot of roads, and roads are expensive. It takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get to Jarvage. It's a beautiful 2.5 hours, but most of it is road, rough road. Where I live in Ruby Valley, I've for years said that Ruby Valley has the finest gravel road in the United States, and I'm sure of it because the county spends a lot of money on keeping that nice every year. I talked to the county roads supervisor, and he said it'd be about 1,000,000 times more to 1,000 times more to pave the roads. So I don't think paving is going to happen. But okay, so all the money from Elko and Spring Creek are not going to go out to pave the roads in the rest of the county, but there will be some disproportionate usage of money if it's fair, because Elko benefits, everyone in Elko benefits from easy access to beautiful places in the rest of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Heading back to our city council candidates, Ms. Lostra, you'll have the first opportunity on this one. Air service is a huge concern for our community. What steps are the city taking to make sure we keep the flights we have now and to increase flights in the future? What else do you feel should be done?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I personally actually travel a lot for work, so I utilize the flights that come in and out of Elko, which for me personally is a huge benefit. I know that I believe the city manager and I believe the mayor, some of the other people that are on staff at the city, along with some other community members, the chairman for the ECBA, have all served on an air flight service. I'm not exactly sure of the acronym that they use for that, but they are working with the airlines to keep the service that we currently have, to make the schedules accommodating for those that are either business professionals or traveling for, you know, any kind of pleasure in and out of Elko, keeping those rates affordable and trying to maintain that. I know that the city has subsidized some of the flight service so that we are able to maintain those flights in and out of Elko. We do not want to see our local residents have to travel to get out. And I would just like to recommend that anybody who is flying, if you're looking at flights out of Salt Lake or Reno, plug it in and fly in and out of Elko. Sometimes you're seeing a difference of only $100. That doesn't even cover your gas to leave Elko to fly somewhere else to park and then fly out of a different area. So I know that they're doing a great job working on that, maintaining our service and our schedules here.
Thank you, Ms. Lustra. Mr. Hagan, you'll have this next one. Would you like for me to repeat it?
No. Well, like I mentioned before, we used to have casino flights here. The casino used to bring in hundreds of people every day for gambling and to enjoy the community. That was a big cost to us when that stopped. I would like to see us looking into maybe getting another company in here. But they used to call them junket planes, to utilize the airport a little bit more. As far as Delta goes, I mean, an air service is only going to operate as much as it's needed. We're a small community. The only real way we can increase our usage of the airport and have more flights is by increasing the population here. And that goes along with a lot of other things, you know, different stores, big box stores that people want here. We would have to brace for an increase in population in the community in order to make it more attractive for these flights to be more frequent, maybe different airlines to come in here. But I mean, most importantly, we do have an airport. Some communities our size do not, and I think our current city council is doing a really good job at keeping it here. I know it's been tough. I know Reese has had a hard time with this, and but I think they're doing a great job with what they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Mr. Morris, would you like for me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's imperative that we keep air service here in Elko. We have to do it. There's a committee that's been put together with the mayor, the city manager, county representative. We're kind of leaning toward Berger too to give us a hand in the legislature. Last year in the legislature, they passed a bill that was supposed to help us with the air service in the rurals. They passed the bill. Of course, they didn't fund it though, so it really wasn't any advantage to us. But between the city, the county, if we get our legislature on board to pass the bill and fund it, I think that'll help, because it's imperative. We've got to have air service in Elko. And they have, SkyWest has changed their flight somewhat, and they put in a smaller aircraft, which is more efficient, and so they're operating. So hopefully our subsidy to them will go down as the employments go up. So I encourage everybody that's got to fly, please fly out of here and support our airport and support the SkyWest. And hopefully the legislature this year will put some money to the bill that they passed last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Hagan, next question, you'll have the lead off on this. There are some improvements in the downtown area. Do you feel that the city should be doing more to beautify the downtown? And if so, what specifically?
Great question. Specifically, we really need need to maintain our roads better. You get 100 feet from one of the best restaurants in town, the Star. You have roads in disarray. We look like a third world country. Just, I mean, it's not even a couple 100 feet away from central downtown. You look at River Street, you look at Railroad Street. I mean, these streets really need to be revitalized. We have, I believe it's around River Street and Second, a drain that overflows just about every year when the river gets high. We need to address these issues, and because people do not just drive around the downtown area, they like to explore different parts of Elko, and it seems the oldest parts of Elko look the oldest, and I think we really need to address our city roads and improve on them. It would also bring more tourism. You know, I know when I first came back after being gone for 15 years, and I saw that area of town was still in disarray, I was bewildered. I couldn't believe it. You know, I've seen all the growth that occurred here, yet we still have dirt roads very close to town. So yeah, I mean, I think it's very important to revitalize our infrastructure, refresh it. It's great for the community and the local residents in those areas. And I mean, our gas tax, with gas as high as it is, and our gas tax is taken out by a percentage, we should have plenty of money to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Mr. Morris, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
I think I'm good, thank you. The city has a downtown beautification program going on where businesses can apply for a grant. It's kind of a three-phase approach. They have a grant for a demolition, like when the building burns down and it's not feasible to rebuild it, they can actually get a grant to demolish that and then rebuild it, help rebuild it. They also have one for storefronts, so if you want to improve your storefronts, to include new windows, doors, stucco, whatever you like. We got a couple of those. The Sandoval Glennon building downtown is a prime example of that. It's very nice. And they also have an infrastructure one. So if you buy a building that has been vacant for over a year and have to bring it up to code, or if it's changed from retail to say an office and you have to bring it up to code, then you can apply for a grant to help with the infrastructure to upgrade the water and sewer system or the ADA bathrooms and this type of thing. So it's in place right now. I just wish more people would apply for it. The ones that have done it, it's really been a nice addition to the downtown. If you look around some of those storefronts that has taken advantage of this program, it's really nice, and I wish more people would. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Ms. Lostra, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Same, the downtown revitalization grant is something that I personally took advantage of for our building on the corner of 6th and Silver. It was formerly Nevada Energy with a worn down warehouse and building. We did apply for the city grant. We did utilize that, and it definitely helped us with the storefront of our little piece of corner right there, like I said, on 6th and Silver, in which we tried to revitalize downtown, and we are business owners down there. I know that our neighbor, Mr. Jeff Dolling, also utilized the grant for doing some improvements on Dolling Hall. So we do have those opportunities for grants for downtown revitalization. We also have the Downtown Business Association that also offers grants to businesses that are struggling down there. So we have lots of opportunities. I think that business owners that are downtown need to just reach out either to the city, to the chamber, to the DBA. We all have resources that we can tap into and help revitalize and beautify the downtown. I believe that the city's done a great job with adding some landscaping in the parking lots and those types of areas. The DBA has added trash cans. We've added lights to some of those trees that need some maintenance. But I think that we've done a lot to revitalize downtown, and that there's still more opportunity, but there are grants and other things that are available for those that are in need to make that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Lostra. Moving back to our county commission candidates, Mr. Gale, you'll have the first opportunity on this one. Should the county commission have more control over the budgets of county departments that are headed by elected officials?
This is something I've never thought of. Should the county, here, let me repeat the question. Should the county commission have more control over the budgets of county departments
That are headed, by elected
officials.
officials.
So are we talking about the clerk, the treasurer, recorder,
Sheriff's office,
sheriff's office?
etc. Not to point any of those out particularly.
Yeah, and so forth. No, I haven't really thought of this. Delmo, yes or no? Those three little words, I don't know. Every man finds them the most difficult three little words to say. I'm willing to say it. The important thing is that I can get in there and I can study it out. I will not vote on an issue that I haven't studied out. In short, I cannot give you a vote on this one. I will study it out. I will find out what's best for the county. I will talk to whoever wants to give input, and then we'll decide. Jay, how about you?
Would you like for me to repeat the question, Mr. Dalton?
No, I actually agree with Brian on this one. I don't know. I think that elected officials are elected for a reason. And so the way I would lean is that maybe the county needs to stay out of budgetary controls that have been put in place by other elected officials. But like Brian, yeah, I think I would have to study an awful lot more about this particular issue.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to stay with you. However, these next questions are actually for all five of you that are up there. If I need to repeat the question, I'm happy to do so. Mr. Dalton, since you have the mic right there, we're going to give it to you. As tourism is very important to the economy of Elko County, what are your thoughts on the proposed ski resort in the Ruby Mountains? Does the opportunity for an increase in tourism dollars outweigh concerns such as water issues and wildlife displacement?
That's another hard one. I really think that there are probably some state and federal hurdles that's probably going to have to pass before it comes to the county commission. The tourism dollars would be really good, but are we going to have enough snow for a ski resort in 5 years? How are the logistics exactly going to work out on that one? And then, of course, the traditional use of the land. I mean, you know, the ranching, the wildlife, the what have you that's up there, I think is worth preserving. That's part of what makes Elko County special.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mr. Gale.
Yeah, this is a new issue that's recently being brought before the county. I don't know if it's been brought in other iterations in years past. Yeah, like Jay says, the money would be really nice. The first thing I would have to discover, though, is the capacity of the person who's pushing it forward to see if they can actually carry it out. Because I don't think it's appropriate for the county to waste a bunch of time and effort over something that really isn't going to pan out. Like Jay said, yes, are we going to have snow enough? The last 2 winters were fine for snow. The 3 winters before that, we couldn't keep grasshoppers alive. It was very difficult. I wonder when the global warming is going to kick in. But yes, it's something that deserves a lot more research. I am not opposed right off before knowing anything else, I'm not opposed to expanding, to bring more people in. More people need to enjoy Elko County, and more people will enjoy Elko County. I don't know if you've looked recently at a graph of the world's population, but it takes a hockey stick up, and it's supposed to be what, 50% more in the next 50 years, something like that. We're going to have more people, so that if you own land now in Elko County, you got it, because when it's time for you to retire, you can sell it for a fortune and move to California, where everyone else is moving out of. I don't know. I do not advise going to California. It's a big issue. It has a lot of sides to it. And a lot of people feel very strongly either to preserve or to move on. We would have to research it.
Thank you. Moving to our city council candidates with the same question. Mr. Morris, you have the first opportunity on this one. Would you like for me to repeat the question?
I think I'm good, unfortunately. My understanding that this individual's purchased most of this land and built his ski resort up in the Rubies. Most of it will be on private property, but he is looking at doing some permitting through the Forest Service to get up to the 9,000 and 10,000 foot level in the Rubies, where hopefully there will be enough snow. Of course, he's got to jump through some hoops to get those permits through the Forest Service, but I got some concerns about it, obviously. It's going to increase traffic over that summit. And we all know that the traffic over that summit is a mess right now, and it's getting worse and worse. And until we can get NDOT and the feds and everybody together to build another route into the other side into Spring Creek and subsequently into Lamoille, so the traffic out there is just horrendous. We have to address that, but the city doesn't have that kind of money. The county doesn't have that kind of money. We're going to have to get the feds and NDOT and everybody else involved. You start building bridges over rivers and railroad tracks, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars. So I have some doubts, but then again, I got to look at private property rights. This individual purchased that land to do this, and does he have the right to do it? I guess we'll find out if he get the permits to go up a little higher where there will be no more snow. But in a way, I support it. But then in another way, I've got some very deep concerns about it, because that traffic out there is already a mess. So hopefully we can address that first before this. I think this is going to take years. I think just to get through the permitting process. I could be wrong, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I do have some concerns about it.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Hagan, you'll have the next opportunity to answer this. Would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, I think I got it. Yeah, I did just recently read about the meeting on the zoning of that property. Now, I mean, yeah, it would be great for tourism, but like I said, we really need to. A house is only as strong as its foundation. We really need to straighten up our roads. The traffic here, as Claire pointed out, is ridiculous already for such a small town. And yeah, we definitely would need another route over to Spring Creek and Lamoille to do this. As far as the weather goes, I don't know if many people know this, but the county commissioners approved cloud seeding before last winter, and you saw what happened with that. We had an abundance of snowfall. It actually cost the city a lot of money to remove that snow too, but I don't think snow is going to be an issue. But I mean, I think it's a good idea, but as long as it does take years, because it's going to take years to develop the infrastructure in order to support that kind of tourism in that area, I mean, it would be great for our economy. I mean, I would also like to see the indigenous tribes around here exercise their sovereignty a little bit more, maybe build a casino resort like they do in most places around Nevada. I mean, there's ways to get tourism here, but we really have to build our infrastructure first before we can even think of bringing in, tens of thousands more people just on a tourist basis.
Thank you, Mr. Hay. Ms. Lostrom.
My comments about this are kind of in line with all of the gentlemen up here. I obviously, as a real estate agent and broker, am a huge proponent in private property owner rights and what you can and cannot do with your own personal property. I'm also a big proponent in bringing businesses and tourism and opportunities to this area, bringing in the tourism. That broadens our tax base. I think that that's great. I also believe that the traffic and the infrastructure to handle that type of facility along those roads is going to be an issue. I think that the feasibility studies that need to be completed in order for this project to be a go is going to outline all of that, and I think the determination once that's completed will kind of outline that project, and like I said, figure out if it's a good fit for this community or not. But I would love to see any sort of increase in tourism and events that we can bring into this community. I know that the Elko County Visitors Authority has developed a couple of unique opportunities for tourism, and they've brought in some different events that bring in all kinds of tourism and people from around the country. I think that we have lots of opportunity to bring in those new events and new types of facilities to this area. I think that's a great idea, but I don't know that this is the right location at the right time for that type of facility to be brought into this community.
Thank you, Ms. Lostrom. We go back to our county commission candidates. Mr. Gale, this has been talked about a little bit. We're going to have hopefully some opportunity for you to expand on it, for all five of you to expand on it a little bit. The train derailment last February brought to light how fragile the transportation infrastructure is between Elko and Spring Creek. What are your thoughts on the situation, and how should it be addressed, if at all?
Yes, ultimately, I envision a road parallel, pretty much, to 80 that starts at the Halleck exit, runs along the Boyd Kennedy Road. There will have to be some bridges, and there will have to be some purchase of private property. That road can go from the Halleck exit straight to Boyd Kennedy. So it comes around the other side of the mountain, so you're not going over the pass, the summit. Something like that would cost a lot of money. It would be a big project. However, it would enable Spring Creek to become its own community. It's not just a tiny little division of Elko. Then it's its own community, and you could have more sister cities or sister communities side by side. Going west to get back into 80, I don't know where that road would go. The terrain is, we could do it. It could be done. But that's a big project. So what I imagine would be the best thing is a parallel route, parallel to 80, that feeds in and out of Spring Creek that way.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Mr. Goldman.
I agree. The infrastructure is quite fragile, and it's kind of county-wide, but that one's a real big one. And as one of the previous speakers stated before, the county, the city of Elko, we don't have the kind of money to put into a project like that. But those infrastructure needs do need to be addressed, and we're going to have to partner, I think, with state and federal funding sources in order to make something like that happen. Just because Brian and I've talked about this before. We're both ranchers, and we're pretty good at making something out of nothing. But pretty soon you wind up with no more nothing to make something out of, and we're going to need help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dalton. Ms. Lostra, you'll have the first opportunity for that question.
I believe this entire community agrees that we need an alternate route from Elko to Spring Creek. That train derailment was just a small fracture to see the traffic that happens to travel that way, and the backup and the inability for people to get to their jobs, to get to their children, to get to schools, all of that to travel over the hill. We definitely need an alternate route. I know that there have been former county commission councils that have put together traffic plans for that. I know that the current county commission is also working on putting together more feasibility studies for the best route to do that at the lowest cost to the community. I know that the county and the city are definitely going to have to collaborate, cooperate, and we're going to have to get some federal and legislative funding in there. But I do believe this is a state of emergency for our entire county and our entire community that needs to be addressed in the very near future.
Thank you. Mr. Hagan.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that it took a train derailment to bring the safety concerns of not having an alternate route to life. When I did run for mayor, I did run on the basis of wanting to build another bridge across another route to Spring Creek, because Spring Creek has grown so expeditiously. I believe we got 23,000 people there now, commuting back and forth every day. Not all 23,000, of course, but I believe if we make it a safety issue, and we can show the federal and state governments that, hey, it's unsafe not to have another route across, because emergency vehicles won't be able to access in case of emergency if one of the bridges are down, like we saw with the Amtrak derailment. And I mean, maybe that would be a good place to start. Let's focus on the safety issue of not having it, and maybe we'll get a little better response from the state and federal governments on funding for doing something like that. Because as we know, the federal government wants to do everything under the guise of safety. So maybe we should manipulate them to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Mr. Morris.
The city's been working on Elko Boulevard that takes off from Bullied Road and goes over toward the hospital. That'll help some of the traffic on 5th Street and 12th Street. It's not going to get you over the hill, of course, but it's going to help some of the traffic, at least in town. The bottom line is, like we've said before, at some point in time, we need another route over the hill into Spring Creek, Memorial area. But like I said before, I would imagine that's $50–60 million conservatively. I mean, we got to get the feds involved. We got to get NDOT involved, city, county, anybody else we can get on board, because there's not enough money in any of our entities to even come close to addressing this, let alone even doing the engineering work to do it. But hopefully Elko Boulevard will help with some of the traffic to get from Elko, at least to the hospital, to get over the summit. But again, you've got to get over the summit. So,
Thank you. For this next question, I'm going to throw a curve to our timer. We're going to give you 1 minute. That's because I think some of this may probably be wrapped up in your closing remarks. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Morris. What skills and experiences do you have that you believe would be beneficial to you as a city council member?
well, like I said before, I've served this community in one capacity or another for the past 40 years. I attended city council meetings as the chief of police for a number of years. Of course, I've been on the city council the last 3.5 years. I think my background in budgeting and like I said, I don't owe anybody anything. Nobody owes me anything. I can make my decisions based on what's best for the citizens of Elko. I've lived here all my life. I've raised my kids here. Me and my wife just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. We're not going anywhere. We're staying. So I'd like another 4 years.
Congratulations.
Mr. Hagan.
Well, I believe one of the strengths that I have is, growing up, I went to 12 different public schools. I moved around a lot. I was in foster care, group homes, etc. And then as an adult, I have lived in various cities. I was born in Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm a long ways away from home. I lived all over Connecticut. I've lived in Utah. I've lived quite a few places in Nevada. And I've been able to see all of those places and how they do things, and it gives me a little more insight than, I mean, Elko is unique, but we still are a city just like any other city. And me being able to see how other cities operate, I think is a benefit to the city council as me as a representative.
Thank you. Ms. Lustra.
I just have to say that my children are products of third generation Elko High School graduates. So we're also not going anywhere. I did attend and got a degree from Great Basin College, moved on to get a degree from Nevada Reno. I have local businesses here, not just one, we have multiple. Again, we're vested in the community. I have multitudes of board service, anywhere from, I was on the chamber board for 6 years, I've been on the DBA board for 4 years, I've served Elko Realtors for the last 17 years. I was on Nevada Realtors board and executive boards. So I've got lots of board experience, and again, I'm not afraid to speak up and give my opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Lustra. For our county commissioners, candidates, same question, though phrased in a way of how would you be best on the county commission level? And Mr. Dalton, we'll go with you first.
Let's look it up. I'll read this to you again. I've been on the Nevada Beef Council, the Federation of State Beef Councils, Volunteer Fire Department, the Elko County Fair Board, Clover Conservation District, Wells Rural Electric's Next Dollar Foundation, Wells Community Presbyterian Church Session, and Treasurer. And like I said before in my opening statement, to tie all of that together, all of these experiences that I've had have taught me how to approach issues with an open mind and work collaboratively and cooperatively with people to help ensure the best outcomes. And I think that's what makes me the best candidate to be on the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mr. Gale.
Could you, never mind.
You know I'd be ready for it.
Thank you. I feel I'm most qualified. The county has a big old staff of highly qualified professionals. They've got legal counsel, and they've got a county manager, and they've got just a ton of people who really know how to do their job. One of the qualifications that is never on any job listing is extraordinary creativity. It's never there. And yet in the real world, that's the thing that separates the top from everybody else. I believe that Elko County has that. I personally, with my study in engineering, I'm a rancher. And when I quit engineering to become a rancher, everybody asked me, well, why would you do that? You know, you're an engineer, why would you want to be a rancher? And I told them, you know, if you're not an engineer, you can't ranch, because there's so much that goes wrong all the time. Anyways, creativity, willingness to think about things in it from a new perspective. That's what I think qualifies me.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. At this point, we're going to wrap up, and we're going to go to our closing comments. We'll go back to 2 minutes, so that you don't have to rush through it too fast. Mr. Dalton, we're going to start with you.
All I can really say in closing is, like I stated before, I'm committed to practical, common sense solutions that help all of us thrive. My goal is to create opportunities that benefit everyone in our county while preserving what makes Elko County special. Together, we can make thoughtful decisions that build a stronger future for us all.
Thank you, Mr. Gale.
Thank you. In closing, I would just like to reiterate my 100% commitment to the United States Constitution. Now, I often get asked, United States Constitution, are you running for Senate? Why does that come into the county? And the reason is, the Constitution was established to regulate, to limit the United States government. Too often, we don't see that nowadays. We see public entities with their hands out wondering what FEMA can do for them. Recently, we've seen what FEMA can do for you, and it's not acceptable. It's not good enough for Elko County. Every decision that I will make will be based on compliance with the United States Constitution and how we keep the government in their proper role, and we establish our own realm in which we have the correct role. I'm not going to be looking for Big Brother to solve our problems. We have creativity, we have intelligence enough, we have the will, we can do it. I want to be your commissioner because I want to represent you in unique ways. I want to solve your problem. I'm not going to solve your problems. I want to solve the county's problems. I want to enable you to solve your own problems. I think that's the proper role of government.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. To our city council candidates, Mr. Morris, you'll have the first opportunity for closing remarks.
Well, like I stated before, I've served this community for about 40 years in one capacity or another. I had the opportunity to be an undersheriff under two really good sheriffs, Sheriff Harris and Sheriff Pitts. I served as the chief of police here in Elko. I've worked hard, I've kept my integrity intact. Like I said before, I don't owe anything to anybody, nobody owes me anything. I can base my decisions and the way I vote on my conscience and what do I think is best for the city of Elko. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. You can ask the mayor. Sometimes I probably shouldn't, but I do. It kind of stirs up the meeting once in a while, but it's just the way I am, and I'm not going to change that. And like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I've been here 40 years, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years serving on the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lustra.
So I would just like to say thank you to everyone who's attended, the residents of Elko, and my fellow council members, Mr. Morris and Mr. Hagan, also Mr. Dalton and Mr. Gale, for participating in this important discussion today. Elko's our community, and we're all at a crossroads where the decisions that we make will shape the future of our current residents and our current community. This will last for generations to come. I believe in a vision for Elko that prioritizes sustainable growth, supports local businesses, and ensures that our infrastructure meets the needs of our growing population. It's about balancing the preservation of our unique small town values with the opportunities that come with progress. We must be forward-thinking while protecting what makes Elko unique and special to each one of us. As a council member, I will continue to work tirelessly to represent the voices of all residents and foster a spirit of collaboration between our city government, staff, and the people that we serve. Together, we can create a future that everyone in Elko has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you for your time. I look forward to continuing to serve this wonderful community and each of you.
Thank you, Ms. Lustra. Mr. Hagan, final comments are yours.
Thank you. In closing, I'd like to say, if elected, I would like to be the voice of all the people in Elko, not just the elites, not just the ones putting the most money into this community, but everybody. I'm not going to be a city council person just twice a month. The whole month will be filled with me working for the city as a voice for the communities, the poor, the rich, the miners, the retail workers, the hospitality workers, and as Claire Morris stated himself, I don't owe anybody anything. I don't work for anybody, and nobody is backing my campaign. I generally speak my mind too, and I hope to one day upset Reese Keener also. And a vote for me will be a vote for the people of Elko and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. I'll have just a few more remarks. However, in the meantime, let's please show our appreciation for our candidates this evening. I would like to once again thank our candidates. I'd also like to thank the Elko Convention Visitors Authority, our media partners for being here this evening and covering the event, Ms. Katie Ashley for getting this ready to put out a little bit wider than what we were able to do just this evening, everyone who submitted questions for this evening, and thank you all very much for coming out. Thank you for taking the time to become informed electors. Mail-in ballots may now be submitted via the U.S. Postal Service, or you may drop them off at the Elko County Clerk's office. You may also submit them in person during early voting days and hours to all early voting poll locations. You may also submit them during regular days and hours at city clerk's offices across the county, beginning on Saturday the 19th. Finally, you can also submit those ballots on Election Day, November 5th, at any polling location. In-person early voting begins this Saturday, October 19th, and continues every day except Sundays until Friday, November 1st. Hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Saturdays. Remember that polls are open on Nevada Day observed Friday, October 25th. Early voting will take place here at the Convention Center or at the Owyhee Human Development Center. In-person early voting also takes place at the Elko Indian Colony Gymnasium on Wednesdays between 9 and 5. There are 7 ballot questions on the ballot this year, including 6 potential changes to the Nevada Constitution. If anyone needs a sample ballot, to learn more about those questions, I have some with me. You may also stop by the Elko County Clerk's office to pick them up. Thank you once again for taking the time to become an informed voter. Good night and safe travels home.